So is AI a net good for society, or is it AI? Is it a net bad for society? Is it a net positive or a net negative? And that's the subject of today's video as we listen to some of the things that Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, has to say about this. Let's jump right in.
Because there's also, you have to remember, it's not like nuclear weapons, which are only good for bad things. It's a difficult decision because it can do tremendous good too in healthcare and education. It'll do tremendous good. And in fact, if you think about it increasing productivity in many, many industries, that should be good. The reason it's bad is because of the way society is organized, so that Musk will get richer and a lot of people get unemployed and Musk won't care. I'm using Musk as a sort of stand-in. That's not on AI, that's on how we organize society.
The way things are going right now, the tech bros, and he's using Elon Musk as an example, but they want to basically replace everyone and take all the money, right? And so then you'll have this Tesla rehashing old threats to shareholders to approve Musk $1 trillion payday, right? Musk really wants that $1 trillion. It's so ridiculous. Like no one needs this much, right? And essentially what it is, he's trying to convince everyone over at Tesla that they're going to have the best, AI in the whole world, and you're all going to have a robot buddy, and I guess you're not going to have a job anymore, but you're going to have lots of robots walking around. And this has wide implications. Yes, there is some real technology here, and I always acknowledge that, but I think there's real dangers both in how society's structured and also to, like, if we over depend on this stuff, what does it mean to our markets? And what are we all going to do if we don't have jobs? I think anyone who has a serious discussion about this should address this issue.
Suppose that some telescope had seen an alien invasion fleet that was going to get here in about 10 years. We would be scared and we would be doing stuff about it. Well, that's what we have. We're constructing these aliens, but they're going to get here in about 10 years and they're going to be smarter than us. We should be thinking very, very hard, how are we going to coexist with these things?
And it's interesting how he refers to the AI as being like, look at the telescope and aliens are coming, or you could say the asteroid is coming and, we're all going to die kind of thing. And shouldn't we be concerned about it? And I am concerned about it. Actually, I first heard about this stuff way back, I think it was 2016. I went to a thing over at Oak Tree Management with Howard Marks, if you know who that is. It's just a top investor type person in the US. And the thing he was talking about was if we replace all of the driving jobs with robots, what are those people going to do? And it's going to create just massive upheaval in society. And so, he's going from a different point of view of like, hey, AI is going to be smarter than us, and there's certainly dangers of that. That's like in 10 years. But either way, we should be having these discussions. And a big part and sort of theme of this is that there's so many people out there, like say like a Musk, or if you want to talk about the OpenAI, Altman, they're just looking at the dollar signs, right? And then if you're in a situation you can buy off governments, then suddenly you push way more towards dollar signs. If you want to say capitalism, you can. But we're not talking about the human implications or society implications, which obviously are important. And so, these days you get these headlines, AI is really coming for the jobs, or is AI coming for your job? It certainly felt that way this week in a string of layoffs. This is literally the headlines today in the Wall Street Journal.
Yes, that's the problem. They are much more concerned about the race. They should be much more concerned about whether humanity will survive it. Also whether society will survive it if you get massive unemployment. There's one piece of good news, which is all the different countries are aligned in not wanting AI to take over from people. They're anti-aligned for things like cyber attacks or autonomous weapons. They're somewhat aligned for creating viruses. None of them really wants other countries to create viruses. On AI taking over, they will collaborate because nobody wants that. The Chinese Communist Party doesn't want AI to take over. Trump doesn't want AI to take over. They can collaborate on that. That leaves the question of how do we prevent it taking over? Even if all the countries collaborate, what do you do?
So I actually disagree with him on that, because if you listen to the Trump language, now remember Trump came into office, worked with Elon Musk, and Elon Musk's whole plan was fire as many people as you possibly can. That was the whole Doge thing. And their plan then was to basically give Musk all the contracts and replace all the government systems with his AI or whatever. So I disagree with him on this stuff. I don't, have to agree with him on everything. He's a smart guy, so I'm not saying he's dumb or anything. I just say I just disagree on that point, because you'll see it too also in the U.S. markets or the way Trump talks. He's like, oh, we're gonna have to be the leader of AI in the whole world, and then talking about building data centers everywhere. And that's what's driving our markets. And then Bessent and all his Trump's people go on TV and say, see, look at all this investment in American business these days. But again, it's all for AI. So I disagree. I think people are wanting to essentially replace you because they're looking at profit margins, Trump included. And when you look at our headlines, which is interesting, China's Xi pushes for global AI body at APEC in counter to the USA. And so essentially it's going to be which country is going to take the lead on, do we set up rules for this kind of stuff, right? Obviously, if you're China, or it doesn't matter, Korea or Japan or any country, or if you want to say Germany, you want, if we are going to go in this world, you want, other countries to buy your products. So China wants to essentially create a world to where, hey, let's make free trade for our solar panels so we can power these things, or let's make free trade for when we develop chips to compete with US that you buy our stuff, right? So it's a lot of it is about control of who gets to basically sell the technology. That's what it boils down to. I'll read a little bit. It says, Chinese President Xi Jinping took center stage at a meeting at APEC on Saturday to push proposal for a global body to govern artificial intelligence and position China as an alternative to the United States on trade cooperation. That's literally what it says. So that's what sort of China's into. China is a little bit different than USA to where, because China has so many people, they can just be like, hey, let's just have people work in factories forever because we have so many people and people need jobs. Where the USA has less population, and US would be like, hey, let's automate everything, right? Replace people with robots, or let's ship jobs to other places where workers are cheaper. So it's different point of view on that. I have, like I said, I have different than Hinton's point of view.
And I think at present, all the big companies and governments have the wrong model. So their basic model is, I'm the CEO, and this super intelligent AI is the extremely smart executive assistant. I'm the boss. I can fire the executive assistant if she doesn't do what I want. And I just sort of say, make it so, a bit like Star Trek. And the super intelligent AI makes it so, and I get the credit. Great. It's not going to be like that when it's smarter than us and more powerful than us. That's just the wrong model, I believe. We need to look around and say, is there any model where a less intelligent thing controls a more intelligent thing? And we have one model of that. And it's a model we all know, which is a baby controlling a mother. Evolution put lots of work into allowing the baby to control the mother. And the mother is actually often more concerned about the baby than about herself.
And I think the model that he offers here is actually quite interesting regarding the mother and the baby situation, where the mother's more intelligent than the baby, but their goal is to take care of the baby. And so when we develop AI, that's probably a good guiding principle there, is develop these things that their primary focus is to take care of humans. And the problem, though, as you guys know, in all sci-fi movies, going in the future, the AI goes haywire and then suddenly does its thing. And so that's why it goes back to where he's saying, hey, we see this, meteor or aliens coming, or you want to talk about the robots are coming 10 years from now. Is there a real threat to society?
Is the United States behind China in developing generative AI right now?
Not yet. The United States is still a little bit ahead, but not as far ahead as they thought. And in China, you've got a very large number of very competitive, very smart people, very well educated in science and engineering and math. They're educating far more people than the US in those areas. The US has basically relied on immigrants to be smart at those things. China may well overtake the US, and if there's one thing you would do if you were Chinese to ensure that China overtakes the US, is you would stop the funding of basic research in the US, and you would attack the good research universities. Trump looks like he works for Putin, but actually in attacking the universities and attacking the funding of basic science, he's acting as if he's working for Xi.
And that right there, hearing his perspective on that, I'll just say it just totally blew my mind. Right? He looks like he works for Russia, but his actions actually, is more like working for China and working for Xi. And I'll just say this. I used to teach at Tsinghua University, if you guys are familiar with that. It's considered the MIT of China. A lot of smart people are there. And it's not just Tsinghua. There's a lot of universities in China, and they just have a larger population, and they focus on, graduating as many people as they can and educating as many people as they can in science and tech and math. And in the US model, sort of, how can I say, how many young Americans have been thinking about for decades now is, hey, all the money is in finance. Hey, all the money is in business, right? Which logically it makes sense. So that's why you get a lot of people go into those finance and business. And then the model is, okay, we're going to either automate everything, right? Create a bunch of robots to push margins to the moon, or we're going to hire people from outside the country to come in, which if you understand that model, it makes sense. I get the money. We bring in talent to do engineering or whatever. But the problem is in the Trump situation, if you completely destroy that model that's been the US model, then you're going to fall behind. I mean, right? It makes sense because China's training their people. And you look at this, Penn and USC become latest university to reject White House deal. I'm just mentioning this. This is my university. It's actually Trump went there also. So did Musk. And, Trump basically just wants to cut funding to universities. It's ridiculous. Basic funding, right? It's ridiculous. And then he also Trump wants to cut immigration, essentially, doesn't want to bring in skilled workers. And this has been a strength for the USA. I'm telling you the truth. Like, if you're going to build a company or a sports team or whatever, if you create an environment where you can get the brightest and the best from all around the world, right? Regardless of where you come from or what language you speak or what religion you are, like, just get the best people in various fields. Like, you're going to be strong. But if you cut that off and don't train your own people, I think we're in real trouble. That's why it's important to hear this perspective on this stuff. So I liked what he said about the Russia-China thing, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this also.
How deep is that damage? By the way, it's the immigrants you talked about as well. It's not just the direct funding for the research. It's also the brain power coming in from overseas. How deep is that damage, and how immediate may we feel it?
The point about attacking basic research is you don't really feel it for 10, 15, 20 years. Because what you do is you ensure that the really big conceptual breakthroughs won't happen here. And then later on, the Chinese will be way ahead.
The Chinese will be really way ahead. You heard it there. Just play that scenario out, okay? So no one knows exactly what's going to happen in the next 10, 15, 20 years, right? You don't know exactly. But if today you are bringing in the building blocks to attract the best people in your country. And again, this has been a strength in university, the strength in USA for years is international universities. I've always said that's like a major strength of USA is attracting the best people, right? Encouraging, just basic research and any number of things. Here we're talking about AI, you could talk about, medicine, you could talk about biotech, any number of fields, transportation. You get the best people, lots of great things come out that we don't even know this could be in 20 years. And the closing, the borders, defunding research. I hope you guys understand like how this is really, really damaging to America. And I like what he said, where he's saying, but it just, the practicality of what he said is like, we won't even know the damage until like 10 to 15 years.
These are big companies run by serious people, and presumably they wouldn't be putting all that money in unless they thought they could get a return on it. There's some ego involved. They want to be the ones to do it first, even if it's going to kill us all. So there's ego involved. But presumably they think there's returns to be made. My worry is that the obvious way to make money out of it, apart from charging fees to use the chatbots, is by replacing jobs. The way you make a company more profitable is replace the workers with something cheaper. And I think that's a big part of what's driving it.
Right. And then you get these headlines, UPS cuts 48,000 jobs, right? You guys know this stuff. Unemployment filings hit their highest level since 2021. Or even in my state, new Oregon unemployment claims point to weaker job market. And then when you look at Trump, the way that he says he's going to save America is to build a bunch of data centers, right? And I always find it crazy that, Fox News or, because it's Fox's in Trump's camp, but other media outlets don't question that stuff. And that literally I question every day on the channel, and people don't talk about this that much because on YouTube, if you want to, be popular on YouTube, just tell everyone, hey guys, we got this technology and we're all going to be rich and it's so fantastic, right? But if you just didn't think about the logic of it, it's basically, again, it's designed to replace people, and not everyone's going to benefit in the way, even Hinton says in the beginning, like the way the society is structured, like Musk is going to get all the money. That's the basic gist of it. It's crazy, and we have to have these discussions. Yes, there could be positive benefits for society, but the way things are going, if we don't, stop it the way that it is, I think there's a couple things going on. One is the USA is going to fall further behind other countries, not just China, other countries, and you're going to have massive unemployment. I think that's just a reality.
I mean, one thing I should say is that this is sort of uncharted territory. We've never had things almost as smart as us, which we have now, or things smarter than us, which we'll have soon. We've never been there. We've had things in the Industrial Revolution that got more powerful than us, but we were always in charge of them. A steam engine is just a lot more powerful than a horse, but we control the steam engine. This isn't like that. Also, if you got unemployed because you used to do ditches, now you have to do something else, you could get a job in a call center. But now those jobs are all going to go. It's not clear where those people go. Some economists say these big changes always create new jobs. It's not clear to me that this will. And I think the big companies are betting on it causing massive job replacement by AI, because that's where the big money's going to be.
Right. Like a lot of this is capitalism driven. You could call it greed. He mentions ego, which I think is also part of it. Or you can just use the Elon Musk example. He's kind of always, Musk is always kind of saying the same things, where he's going to go to Mars and he's going to build his robots. But I think what it boils down to is like he wants to beat Altman. Like he'll make personal attacks against other CEOs at other companies. Yeah, I think a lot of it is ego. And the Hinton here was talking about if you were digging a ditch before and AI comes, what are you going to do? Call center, like jobs now gone. And oftentimes I'll see in the comments, this would be from more, the tech bro fanboys and fangirls. You'll see these people say, "Oh, Chris, you're so dumb. Elon Musk is awesome, and new technology always creates new jobs." And so that's the question: what are they going to be, and are there going to be enough of them? I would argue, yes. I think there's certainly going to be jobs in managing the data center. There's going to be jobs in installing data centers, right, or in jobs of cleaning. Maybe mopping the floor. Well, actually, mopping the floor will probably be taken by a robot. There'll be some jobs, but some of these jobs won't be replaced, right? And so then other people say, because I'm going to tell you what people say on the internet. You read the internet, you'll see it. People say, well, Chris, you're so dumb. We don't need jobs. We're all just going to get universal basic income. We're all just going to get free money. I just don't see that happening anytime soon. That's my opinion. I don't think it's a crazy opinion, but I understand on the internet, hang out with a bunch of teenagers. That's essentially what it ends up being. It's who don't want to work, don't want to study, don't want to learn anything. Their dream fantasy is, hey, robots do everything for me, and then I just worship Elon Musk, and therefore I can play video games the rest of my life. I know I'm a bit mean here, but I think that the people who are thinking that you're gonna, not do anything and expect someone just to magically give you money, I don't know. It doesn't add up for me. I think, the way that we have to look forward to this stuff is be honest and realistic about it. But I mean, you're pointing out some real big problems here in society. If everything's driven by only profits, I think people are in real trouble. And in
this sense, so much of the growth in the stock market, so much of the driving the economy is investment in AI right now. Even if the public were more concerned than they are about some of the risks you described, they're going to say, wait a second, that's what's driving our economy. We don't want to give that up. We don't want to go into a recession.
Some people say that our best hope is to have AI try to take over and fail. We need something to really scare the shit out of us. Something like Chernobyl for AI. I'm not sure I agree with that, but that's certainly a possibility.
And so that's the question. I thought that was a really interesting way to phrase it. The Chernobyl for AI. So what would that be? What would be a AI event that it's like a total meltdown to where people are like, okay, let's not do AI at all, right? And it's funny because for those of you who like science fiction, and the importance of science fiction is that we're thinking about the philosophical implications of the future. Say, I was thinking something like a Dune. If you guys are familiar with Dune, the idea is that some cultures are just like, you know what? We had, AI wars where everyone had a bunch of drones and we all basically killed each other. And now we're going to have, basically moratorium of like, okay, no AI development for anyone. And if you're caught with AI technology, you're out. And actually, if you guys are laughing about this stuff, we actually do have some stuff like that now. Say, for example, what if the world decides that, hey, we can start cloning, people and animals or whatever, right? So right now at the moment, I think the world has decided, hey, we're not messing with the cloning of the people stuff. But I think, just practically speaking, I'm sure there's going to be some country out there, some secret lab out there is going to figure out how to do these kind of things. And there's a lot of implications with the human and genetics and DNA and I use cloning as one word, but there's different implications on say bioengineering kind of things. I've already seen it already in the Wall Street Journal where, parents are like, hey, I can, pick the DNA of my kid. You'll see these articles. It's been popping up this year. And so that's what I was saying, to where, we make jokes about, how do we all agree to manage AI, but it's something that we have to think about seriously. And also the importance of, learning from the literature, the philosophy, the economies of the past, and of projecting and trying to, anticipate what's going to happen in the future. So that's my thoughts on this stuff. I know it's a complicated discussion, but I think it's an important discussion, and I want to hear your views on this. And I'll catch you all in the next video.